Hello, this is Justin Williams with the Wolfpacker Podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by co-host and editor of the Wolfpacker.com, Matt Carter. And we've got a great episode ahead of us today. We've got, of course, NC State baseball heading to Omaha. We're going to give you a preview of the College World Series and the Wolfpack's pod and what NC State has to do to come home with their first ever baseball national championship. Could be very special. It's already been a very special season for Elliott Avent and co. We've also got a new football commit to talk about. So before we get too deep in the woods here, a reminder for our listeners at home, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to us. We're on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere you listen to podcasts. Plus, you can always listen to us on the Wolfpacker.com, where you should use promo code PACK60 for a free 60-day trial on all of our premium content, news, and analysis. That's promo code PACK60 for a free 60-day trial on all that premium information behind the paywall that you know you want. June has been a crazy month in football recruiting. There has been tons of news. NC State has 5 commitments in the first 2 weeks of June and more to come. I would be surprised if there weren't more to come this month. So use that promo code PACK60. Get the inside intel on what's going on behind the scenes in football recruiting with NC State and what's shaping up to be a pretty special fall this year too. Also, you can watch us on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up. And last time I asked for comments on the YouTube video and you guys delivered. So please do that again. Comment what you like, what you don't like. Go Pack, anything. Just drop us a comment. Maybe send some good wishes to NC State baseball as they head to Omaha, which is where we're going to start today, Matt. I guess we could do a quick little recap here. We don't have to dwell too much on how the Super Regional unfolded because I already did that with Andrew Sanders earlier this week, but I haven't been able to talk to you on the podcast since NC State defeated top-ranked Arkansas in Fayetteville before one of the best crowds in college baseball in a series that started off with an embarrassing 21-2 loss. NC State comes back and wins games 2 and 3. And guess what? They're going to Omaha, and top-ranked Arkansas is staying home. So, Matt, just kind of your instant reaction from the Super Regionals. After that first game when NC State lost 21-2, how are you feeling? Did you still think that this Wolfpack team could get it done in games 2 and 3?
I thought it would be an uphill climb, and mainly because Reed Johnston was the mainstay of the rotation. And particularly Matt Willitson at the third guy, kind of been up and down. Sam Highfield probably more consistently up than down, but with a limited bullpen, and you're just worried that was that going to be enough. And then, of course, in Game 3, you knew they were going to throw Kevin Kopps, which was absolutely the right decision, in my opinion. I know some people didn't think you should throw him as a starter. I believe you die with your fastball, and he's the fastball of that rotation, and he had the best season in baseball. I don't know if you heard, Justin. He had the best season in college baseball pitching history.
Matt, I was ready for the ESPN broadcast to start debating who's the GOAT, Michael Jordan or Kevin Kopps. I mean, it was about to get to that point if they went to extra innings.
Yeah. So, you just knew that. But I will say, early in the game, I felt like, you know what? I thought the first inning showed some really good at-bats against Kopps, and Butler nearly put one out of the ballpark. He just hit it to dead center, and McDonough had a hard hit single to right, and I think they had a leadoff walk maybe in the second inning. So I felt like the approach was really good, and then kudos to Matt Willitson. He got out of trouble time and time again, and to kind of set up the dramatic finish. So, but I was surprised. They were the number one team in the country. They hadn't lost a weekend series all year long. Not just, it's not some team in like the Sun Belt Conference doing that, or the Big 12 or the Big 10 even, which is not a good baseball league. It was the freaking SEC. That would be like that's like Alabama going undefeated during football season. That's how dominant that is, and so an amazing accomplishment for NC State.
Well, we don't have to dwell on it too much, as I already mentioned. But I will say that Jose Torres solo home run in the top of the ninth inning, that has to immediately rank in one of the all-time great NC State baseball moments. I mean, overall NC State athletic accomplishments. I was on a podcast last night with Tuffy Talk, a couple NC State fans. They're doing a nice little podcast over there, and you can follow them on Twitter if you're interested. But they asked me, where does this accomplishment rank in terms of NC State athletic greatest feats in history? And it was a good question, I thought, because, you think, I mean, look, it's not a national championship. It's not a conference championship, but they did beat the top-ranked team, the, undoubted best team in the country, a team that went the entirety of the SEC schedule without losing a single series against a guy that let up 5 runs all season. They scored 3 runs on that guy, Kevin Kopps. And it's pretty darn impressive. I'd say off the hip, it might be top 10, top 15. I mean, it's a very special moment that we just witnessed. Where would you say it ranks before we move on to our Omaha preview, Matt? Where would you say this accomplishment may rank in terms of all-time feats, or just specifically for the baseball program?
Well, for baseball, you've been to Omaha 3 times, so it ranks like one of the top 3 moments. I mean, all due respect, I'm not one of those guys that believes an ACC championship is more a championship is more valuable than going to the College World Series. I'd rather go to the Final Four in men's basketball than win an ACC championship. If you tell me you're going to lose the ACC title game in men's basketball but make it to the Final Four, sign me up. Outcome to be determined, but sign me up. So it's definitely top 3 at all time. I think the key is, can they get what did they do in Omaha? But I don't know enough about the team in '68 that made it and how they made it. I know the way this team made it probably more exciting and more noteworthy than the 2013 team. You got to remember the 2013 team. I caught a break when I think Rice upset the team that they would have played in the Super Regional, so that ended up being NC State hosting the Super Regional against a Rice team that was kind of a Cinderella team, and NC State beat them 2-0. One of them with a long extra inning game. So this one was a much more challenging path to that College World Series. I say it's more noteworthy to this point, but we'll see what happens once they get to Omaha. I mean, the team in 2013 was a couple of bounces and a few more feet on a Trey Turner home run away from potentially being in the national championship. So that team right now probably still stands above this team in terms of overall, but this year's path it will be more memorable, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I will say that what's special about this year is that NC State kind of has that underdog. They're playing that underdog role in the sense where, and I think that's a role that NC State plays to a T. You think back to the 1983 national championship in men's basketball, probably the most recognizable moment nationally in terms of, what national sports fans look at NC State
Even
as.
NC State, I mean, look at NC State. 1974 team would do laps around the 1983 team.
Right.
I mean, that was one of the greatest of greats all-time basketball teams in basketball history, maybe the greatest team in ACC history. And they went a 2-year stretch where they lost 1 game. And they could have easily won back-to-back national titles, but they were ineligible for the postseason in '73 and had the greatest player in ACC history. It was a far better team than the '83 team. But which team do we talk about more?
The '83 team.
Yeah, because of that Cinderella aspect of it.
I wrote a column about it. If the listeners are interested, you can check that out on the Wolfpacker.com. It was up on Monday, so you got to scroll to the extra news down at the bottom of our front page, but you'll find it. and I hope you give it a good read. But let's move on to talking about Omaha, because NC State is still going to carry that underdog role. Look, I know the Wolfpack beat the top-ranked team in the country, and once you beat the top-ranked team in the country, who's to say that you can't beat anybody else? But if you're looking at the Vegas odds heading into Omaha, I'm looking at DraftKings, and NC State is plus 1,200 to win the College World Series, which is the longest odds of all 8 teams that are still remaining, Vanderbilt being the favorite at plus 275, and Vanderbilt is in NC State's pod. Now, NC State will start with Stanford, the number 9 overall seed. Stanford went to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech in the Super Regionals, and they beat them in 2 games, Texas Tech being the number 8 overall seed. And you look at Stanford off the bat, you know, NC State with their lean pitching staff, they've got 5 guys that they trust, and if you're NC State, ideally you're pretty much only pitching those 5 guys in Omaha. If things go according to plan, those will be the 5 pitchers that are out on the mound in Omaha. So these first 2 games are going to be really important for NC State. They have to stay in the winner's bracket. They are not a team that's built to play their way out of the loser's bracket. Not saying that they couldn't, but it's not an ideal situation if they find themselves in that loser's bracket. And you look at Stanford. Look, I know NC State just beat up the best pitcher in the country, but Stanford has a really great pitcher that they're going to roll out with too on Saturday, which starts at 2 p.m., by the way, and you can catch that on ESPN, NC State Stanford, in the first game of the College World Series. But his name is Brendan Beck. He's 9-1 this season. He has 100.1 innings pitched, 2.96 ERA, which I know is not as sexy as Kevin Kopps's 0.66 ERA he entered into Sunday's contest. But this guy has 128 strikeouts and 23 walks on the season. Clearly a stud. Opposing batters are batting 195 against him. So NC State's got a tall task from day one, and you have to hope that Reed Johnson's going to be ready to roll on Saturday. I know that he was being evaluated this week because Elliott Avent mentioned that he didn't look like his normal self on that Friday game in the 21-2 game. Not all 21 of those runs were Reed Johnson's fault, by the way. He was pulled pretty early, but the game did get out of hand pretty quickly. So you look at the Stanford lineup, Matt. How crucial is this first game for NC State, and how do you think they stack up against the Cardinal?
It'll be, first off, it's going to be interesting to see what decision Elliott Avent makes. Does he go with Reed Johnston, or does he maybe go with Sam Highfield? He kind of made a cryptic remark about maybe Reed Johnson just needs a little bit of rest, and maybe an extra day or 2 on top, and going in game 2 where you know you're going to face, most likely, if everything goes according to odds, you're going to face Vanderbilt, who we should note had the 2 best pitchers in the regional, and Kumar Rocker and Leiter. So you're going to get one of those guys, probably Leiter, Jack Leiter, who got even better numbers than Brendan Beck. Kumar Rocker has even better numbers than Brendan Beck. So do you kind of roll the dice and save your most consistent guy for the second game, and when he might need a little bit of more rest? So that'll be key. But Beck is a guy that, if you look at the MLB.com draft list, he's rated at number 164, which would be about a top 3 or 4 round draft pick in the draft. He's not an overpowering guy, but he will throw low 90s, but he apparently got 4 pitchers. He can throw the curve and a slider and a changeup that are all apparently either average or above average, and he's got great control of the pitchers. So in other words, he sounds like he's a pitcher, not a guy going to throw hard, but he got real good pitching stuff. So, but Stanford more noted, and when you look at them, they kind of a fall off in the pitching staff. They have a second pretty good starting pitcher. They got a decent closer. He doesn't put, but he's not an overpowering closer, and the bullpen looks a little bit more suspect. So Stanford's calling card has been the bats, apparently, from what I've read and gathered, and so that's always interesting how they're going to play in Omaha, and that's the case for NC State. It's not a ballpark where you can just hit home runs in. So if you're a team like Arkansas, for instance, that was reliant heavily on home runs, it may not play well in Omaha. And Stanford is a team that hit 80 home runs this year compared to their opponents is 45, and they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in their lineup that have hit 7 or more home runs this year. But if you look at the batting averages, decent, but not spectacular. So that's going to be the question. Can you, with offense, I think is going to be aggressive on the base tags, hitting the gaps, singles. I'd rather have a bunch of Johnny Butlers, who does have power but also hits darn close to 400. Those are the type of guys you want to roll with in Omaha, and so that's going to be interesting. But yeah, it is a challenging opening pitch too with Brendan Beck. He's a definite MLB draft prospect, a probably top 5 round draft prospect, and so that's going to be a challenge. So it'll be interesting. It's interesting that I've heard from a few people earlier this week who told me that quietly NC State was a good matchup for Arkansas. Very interesting to see how it plays out with Stanford, though.
Look at Matty Scoops getting the intel behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
I got some stuff I'm not allowed to say either.
Okay. Well, yeah. all the more reason to use that promo code PACK60. Maybe you can ask Matt what he's talking about. He might not answer, but use that promo code and get a free 60-day trial. You get on our message boards and you can shoot him a DM. I'm sure he'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
But no, Stanford, I mean, you look at what they did in Lubbock. They hammered Texas Tech. They beat them 15-3 in game 1 and 9-0 in game 2. Now, I will say Stanford did have a tall task to get out of the regional. They hosted the regional. They went 3-1 in the regional. They had a tough matchup with number 17 UC Irvine, who actually beat them on Sunday and forced a winner-take-all Monday matchup in the regional. Stanford ends up winning that game 11-8. Of course, by that point, you're probably not working with the best pitchers you have on staff, so it's about depth and lineup at that point. But you look at NC State, I mean, they've got a really versatile offense. Yes, the power is there, and yes, they can hit homers, and yes, that's how they got a lot of their run production over the weekend against Arkansas. But they're also a team that has 5 batters hitting over 300. They're a team that's going to be aggressive on the bases. And we'll see. I mean, you nailed it. They got to hit the gaps. They just got to get on base. It's hard to hit homers out there, but I will say there are some bats on this NC State lineup that have the power to hit it out of the ballpark, even in Omaha. So I see this as a very important game. I'll ask you, Matt, if you're Elliott Avent, who are you starting with on Saturday? Because I think it's an interesting question. I could see it going either way. If you go with Reed Johnston, you're restoring faith in him. If you're Elliott Avent, you're saying, I trust you. You go out there and you have a great performance to follow up, what was not your best in that Friday game 1 against Arkansas. But if you save him, exactly to your point, if you end up getting Vanderbilt in game 2, whether it be in the winner's bracket or loser's bracket, every game's important. And it'd be great to have your number 1 guy against one of Vanderbilt's studs because they have 2 number 1 guys. So I'll ask you, Matt, what do you think?
It's also a tough call because we talked a lot about Vanderbilt, but I don't want to lose sight of Arizona, who's playing Vanderbilt. And you talk about a lineup that may be made for Omaha, it's Arizona. And they got, they roll 8 guys who have started most of this season. Really 9 guys. All 9 of the guys have started most of the season and batting over 300. So there's not an easy out at all. I mean, they got some incredible on-base percentages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys over 400 on-base percentage, which means over 4 out of 10 at bats they're getting on base. So they have a tall order, really, either way. It's it's going to be hard for Arizona to beat a Rocker or a Leiter if they're on their game. And I presume they're going to start Rocker. And if you look at Rocker's numbers this year, he's given up just 59 hits in 106 innings and struck out 155 batters. And opponents are batting 157 against him.
Nasty.
And then the number 2 guy, Leiter, has even better numbers. He's given up 41 hits in 96 innings, 156 strikeouts, and a 127 batting average against. There's a reason why those 2 guys are going to be drafted top 5 overall in the MLB draft. So that's why I think the matchup with Stanford is so crucial. You do want to get on the winning side of that because it's going to be a tall order in game 2. Vanderbilt also has a very good bullpen. To your question, I just don't know. I mean, Highfield was so good against Arkansas. I might be tempted to go with him and give Johnston a couple extra days, but also with the hope that Highfield can get 6 innings and you can roll out Evan Justice for a few innings, and then you're in good shape for Vanderbilt with Villeman and reserve if you need it. And remember, there is an extra day in between games, so you should have a full bullpen every game as much as you need. But question, I just don't know what the best answer is. It could go. I think you could make a strong case either way, and a lot would depend on how Reed Johnston feels and maybe how he throws in bullpen once they get to Omaha and what he looks like. But Avent, I will say this, Elliott Avent has pulled a lot of the right strings, I feel like, so far this postseason, all the way down to, you don't want to say throwing in the towel, but being realistic about that Friday game and not wasting your better relievers in that game. So he pulled a lot of the right strings so far. So at this point, I'm rolling with Elliott. Whatever he says, I'm gonna put faith in.
I 100% agree with that statement. Elliott Avent has been spectacular this postseason. He has pulled all the right levers, and yes, NC State fans should definitely trust his decision at the end of the day. Don't get into analysis paralysis, Matt. You can make. I'll say this because I'm not going to be behind the scenes. I'm not the one that's with Reed Johnston, seeing him pitch, before the games. But if you're Avent, I think you go with the guy who's pitching the best going into that game. You go with your number 1 guy, whether it's Highfield, whether it's Johnston, whoever is going to give you the best chance to win that game 1. I don't think you try to do a strategy move where you try to save your best guy for a potential matchup with Vanderbilt, because that could backfire on you. You don't know what's going to happen in that Vanderbilt-Arizona game. And that game 1 is crucial. I mean, if NC State loses that game, again, I'm not saying that that's a death sentence for NC State. They could still miraculously pull out a run and find a way to get to the championship game. But it is already an uphill climb, and that would be like climbing Everest coming out of this pod, which is the tougher of the 2 pods, may I add. To come out of this pod in the loser's bracket would just be insane. But we've already seen NC State do the unexpected this postseason, so who's to say they couldn't do it again? We'll see how it all unfolds. Matt, I got one more question for you about this pod. Of these 3 other teams that NC State could potentially face, which scares you the most? Which if you're NC State, who do you think doesn't match up as well with the Wolfpack?
I have this sneaky feeling that we're all focused on Stanford because that's the team they're playing. And we're focused on Vanderbilt because they're the betting favorite. They got the 2 huge arms. And not lose sight of the fact they got a real good bullpen. They got 2 guys that each have 8 saves this year. So they got dual threat closers. But if you look at Vanderbilt bats, they're just kind of okay. It's not a very strong lineup. East Carolina was very much in that. They swept East Carolina in the Super Regional, but that was only because they had Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. If they did not have those 2 studs, East Carolina would beat Vanderbilt the rest of the lineup. Um, so you just look at Arizona's numbers, and I understand they might have some injury issues with the bullpen, and they don't necessarily have great starting pitching. But their lineup would look like a lineup that's tailor-made for Omaha. So I think a lot depends on when you play them too. Um, I feel better about playing Stanford if I wasn't facing the ace starter, because I don't think they have a lot of pitching depth after that. I'd feel better about playing Vanderbilt if it wasn't after one of those first two games. But I would be nervous about playing Arizona down the road when you're getting deeper into your pitching staff and you got to face a lineup that has 8, 9 guys all hitting over 300, and it's not a power hitting team. It's more of a contact hitting team that gets on base. So to be the best, you got to beat the best. And there's nothing easy about this pod. And you're funny, every time you say you have one more question about the pod, I'm thinking podcast for some reason. Like every time you say pod, I was like, got a question about the podcast? But anywho.
That's fair. I mean, while you bring up the podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review the pod, and give us 5 stars. 5 stars only. If you're listening and you give us less than 5 stars, what are you doing? Don't waste your time if you don't like us, but you obviously like us because you're still listening. I will say that Vanderbilt is the team that scares me. I'm gonna be that guy. They are the favorite. They're the favorite for the reason. I trust Vegas. They're pretty smart. I don't know if you've been to Vegas recently, Matt, but those are some pretty big
what were
buildings.
the odds on it? What were the odds on NC State, Arkansas?
I remember specifically because I'm kicking myself for not taking them. But, I mean, honestly, NC State fans, you should be thanking me for not taking them, because if I took them, we wouldn't be talking about Omaha right now. But no, the odds for that series, the 3-game series with Arkansas, going in, remind you, not after the 21-2 loss in Game 1. I'm sure the odds even spiked further after that. But NC State was 5-1 underdog, which means if you bet $100,
okay,
yeah, you bet $100 on NC State to win that series, you win $500. Alternatively, Arkansas was minus $900 to win that series, which means it would have required a $900 wager to profit $100. That shows you how confident Vegas was in the Razorbacks. So Vanderbilt's plus 275 of the 8 teams to win. Everyone has underdog odds because, I mean, really anything can happen in Omaha. But yes, Vanderbilt with those 2 studs, you have to think if they could get to that championship 3-game series, of course they're going to be favored against anybody they could potentially meet there because they have those 2 studs. But if you're not facing Jack Leiter or Kumar Rocker, this Vanderbilt team is definitely beatable. I mean, like you mentioned, of the lineups of these 4 teams, they may have the worst. I mean, NC State could make an argument that they have the best lineup. Everyone's good. I understand that. But this lineup defensively with the bats, they are what have gotten NC State to this point. Of course, the pitching has been spectacular. The 5 guys that have been reliable have also played a huge role. Everybody's played a huge role, but to get to where NC State has been to this point, it's taken a lot of offense and some great fielding. And so you have to feel pretty confident against your 9 guys versus anybody 9 guys if you're NC State. But yeah, Vanderbilt's still this team that scares me, particularly if NC State sees them Saturday or Monday, because you're getting one of those 2 studs. Let's move on, because I think we've talked about Omaha enough. Let's talk about football and another commitment this week. That makes 5 in the first 2 weeks of June for NC State. Dave Dorn and that staff are rolling. The most recent being 3-star athlete Jackson Vick of Southern Nash High School in Bailey, North Carolina. He's being recruited as a corner. You might find that Southern Nash High School name familiar because there's a guy by the name of Zonovan Knight, who's NC State's stud running back that also played there. They're buddies, Jackson Vick and Zonovan Knight. Zonovan Knight helped recruit him. I think he showed him around Raleigh a little bit on his first time to Raleigh. So, Matt, what do you think about Jackson Vick? I know you go back with him and you've been following his recruitment for a while here now, and you've had several interviews with him. I talked to him earlier this week for a story on our site. Great kid, athletic family. But what do you think of Jackson Vick in terms of what he's going to bring to the table as an NC State defensive back.
Yeah, it's a bit of a projection because he plays primarily running back for Southern Mass, and he's a really good running back. If you see him though in person, and you're looking at the athleticism you see from what he does at running back, and you're trying to project how that could translate to the college level, you can see why corners might be the best fit. So I think for NC State, you're seeing an athletic playmaker on film. For Southern Mass, had a great spring season, had a very good sophomore season. Spring season being a junior year because of the COVID, everything was kind of pushed back to the spring. Come from an excellent program at Southern Mass. For those not familiar, it's kind of in the Rocky Mount area. Rocky Mount's their big rival. NC State fans like to say it's the home of Bam Knight. Probably more well known for being the home of Julius Peppers back in the day. Yeah. So I don't know. Somebody.
I'm showing my Panthers shirt.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, big Panthers guy. I don't know where he went to college though.
Yeah. But you look at him, you see a guy that looks very athletic. He looks like a very good playmaker. He's a football player. When you see him in person, he doesn't have the build of a running back, but he does have the build of a corner. And so it's just about how is that going to translate. And can he make that switch to defense? I think he can. He had a pretty productive year playing defensive back as a sophomore. He did not play much of it this past year. But I did mention he's a great kid to talk to. He's very mature. He's a lot of fun to talk to. A very outgoing young man. And, you look at just about every school in the state of North Carolina not only offered him, but prioritized him. UNC was an exception, but this is a kid that clearly all the schools from Appalachian, East Carolina to the ACC teams, Wake and Duke, all not only recruited him, but as I said earlier, prioritized him. He was the guy that they all tried to get on campus. They all heavily pursued. So you feel good when it's pretty clear that every school in the state at the FBS level thinks this kid is worthy of playing for you. And, just the guy NC State had targeted for that corner position. That's the other thing you feel good about. He was their guy at corner, like from the get-go. Jackson Vick, number one on the board at corner. So when you feel that strongly about him, and I would argue Dave Dorn's track record of success and evaluation is pretty good, it makes you feel better. So, I think it's a quality pickup, a worthy pickup. So, and you're right, there will be more to come in June. They now have, I wrote a commitment analysis on Dejon Thompson that's on the site, the linebacker we talked about previously. All four of their in-state commitments are ranked in the top 25 in the state of North Carolina. The record for Dave Dorn is 7 top 25 signees. And it is not out of the question that he could tie that, maybe even break it if all the chips fall a certain way and the rankings hold up. Of course, the rankings are going to change between now and signing day. But it's a good in-state start.
To your point, Matt, in the story that I had with Jackson Vick, which includes quotes from him from that interview, and if you're not a member of the site already, no worries. Just use that promo code PACK60 and you'll be able to read it. But one quote that stuck out to me was he commented on the sense of excitement in the state about NC State. And that's something that wasn't necessarily present this time last year after a 4-8 season. Everything changes after an 8-4 season when you win 7 ACC games, a program record. Great season for NC State. They're back on the winning trend, and that excitement is back, which is crucial for a program like NC State, which really needs that talent from its home state. It needs to keep its talent at home, coming to Raleigh, fuel that pipeline. And I will say that, to your point, not the last commitment that's going to happen in June, knock on wood, but I'm pretty confident in that. And maybe not even the last defensive back to commit. We'll see. A little teaser there for you. But use that promo code PACK60 and you might know what I'm talking about. I think that'll do it for us, Matt. So for the listeners at home, remember, Saturday, 2 p.m., put your rally caps on. It's never too early to put the rally cap on. 2 p.m., NC State Stanford on ESPN. Game 1 in Omaha. Let's see if NC State can get it done. And I'll give the listeners a rooting guide. Root for NC State, obviously, at 2 p.m. And then I think the second game is at 7 p.m. I would root for Arizona. Matt, I know that's the team that you said to look out for, but you don't want Kumar Rocker or Jack Ryder.
No. I mean, ideally, you beat Stanford, you beat Arizona, or you would want Arizona because you still would have one of your top 2 pitchers going against a tough lineup. But Arizona does not have a lot of pitching depth, so and then you would get Vanderbilt down to a normal starter, to a human starter rather than a pro at that point, and they would have to beat you twice at that point too. So, I think you're 100% right. I just get scared by all 3 teams in the pod. They all have something about them that kind of spooks you.
Well, they all had to win a lot of games to get here, so everybody's good, including NC State. So it should be really exciting. I think college baseball is more fun to watch than the pros right now. I mean, you look at the batting averages of the pros, like there are guys that are hitting 250 that are leading their team in batting average. And right now, I mean, NC State's got 5 guys that are hitting over 300. It's more exciting. There's more offense. Yes, the pitching isn't as good. If you like, seeing somebody just strike out everybody, shout out Jacob deGrom, 8 strikeouts in 3 innings against your Cubbies last night. Matt, oof. But, yeah, it's boring.
8 strikeouts and 9 batters, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah. Why did he only go 3? Was he hurt?
Yeah, sorry. He complained his shoulder was getting a little sore, so Mets wisely pulled him at that point because you don't want to mess up the incredible arm of Jacob deGrom. So,
yeah. He's not a human right now, but good for your Cubbies to not have to face him today.
Yeah, I'll tell you this real quick, too. NC State is America's team, most watched team in college baseball.
It had nothing to do with them playing the number 1 team in the country.
I don't know. They're America's team. NC State is America's team. Barstool Sports, I think, is all on the NC State bandwagon, maybe. Or was he upset about losing money on the game?
I don't know if Barstool Sports is on NC State. I don't know if you want Barstool Sports to be on NC State because Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, and all the degenerates over there were all betting on Arkansas, and they all lost money on Arkansas. So I don't know if you want that curse. I could see them jumping on the NC State bandwagon after NC State beat Arkansas, but I'd avoid that. I would stick to the underdog role. Maybe they don't want America's team title. Maybe if they get to the championship game as that underdog, they will become that, America's darling sweetheart that's made it this far away. And once America gets to know Elliott Avon, I mean, they're going to love the guy. So, but all that said, remember to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to us. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Plus, you can listen to us on thewolfpacker.com. Again, I'll tell you again, use that promo code PACK60 for a free 60-day trial and all of our premium content, news, and analysis. Get in the know about football recruiting. It's really important. It's super exciting this month. This is the best time of the year to be following recruiting, so use that promo code PACK60. It's the best time of the year to do it. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give this video a thumbs up. And remember, drop us a comment. Just say go Pack if you want, but just drop us a comment, please. It'd help us. Goes a long way. So for Matt Carter, this is Justin Williams, and this has been the Wolfpacker Podcast.